we will see about SCSI bus. So SCSI bus is mostly used with high latency devices like disk and CD-ROMs, which actually gets data with some latency and delivers it to the required controller in the form of burst. Okay, so SCSI is used to handle low speed devices. So let's see how SCSI is placed in a typical computer system. So if you see this computer system organization of 5 devices, you have the PCI bus, right, over to which many other IO interface controllers are connected. So SCSI controller is also there, and this SCSI controller is in charge of the SCSI bus, right? And to that bus your secondary storage devices which are having higher latency like disk and CD-ROM is connected through their own controllers. Okay, so this is the typical organization of a SCSI controller and SCSI bus. And note that with respect to SCSI, the controller is known as the initiator. Okay, the SCSI main controller is known as the initiator, which begins any transaction in SCSI bus. And any of your peripheral device controllers like your disk controller or your CD-ROM controller is known as a target. They are supposed to respond to SCSI controllers initiation. Okay, so we have the main SCSI controller, the controller in charge of SCSI bus as our initiator, and the subcontrollers of the devices which are supposed to respond to the main SCSI controller, and they are our targets. Okay, so we will see a typical SCSI data transfer. So we are going to consider this particular organization of our computer system in which the SCSI controller is in charge of the SCSI bus, and we have two high latency devices like disk and CD-ROM connected to the SCSI bus through their own independent controllers. Okay, in such a scenario we are going to see how a data transfer happens. So the first step is the controller, the SCSI controller being the initiator or master, it will take up the control of the bus. Okay, so even though SCSI controller is by default the initiator for almost all the transactions, right, the SCSI bus will be actually shared among all the controllers which are connected to it. Okay, so maybe this CD-ROM controller might be involved with some other data transaction and might have been taking up this SCSI bus. So if the SCSI controller needs to start an interaction with this disk controller, what this SCSI controller needs to do is it has to compete or enter into an arbitration mechanism on the SCSI bus, and it has to win the bus over from any other controllers that have taken up the bus. So that is the first step, that is the SCSI controller has to become the initiator of the bus or the master of the bus first. Okay, so after an arbitration mechanism it becomes the master. Then in the next step it has to select the target. So suppose that our SCSI controller needs to interact with the disk controller to perform a disk IO. Okay, so what it has to do is the SCSI controller will take the bus for the transaction first, and then it has to hand over that bus to this disk controller. Okay, because in case of any SCSI transaction, the initiator and target, they will play an active role, okay, in the transfer, because during the transfer there will be many pauses or suspension of sessions. So these people will coordinate with each other in order to resume the session over multiple transfers. So the SCSI will first take up the control of the bus, and now it will hand over the control of the bus to the disk controller or to the target. That is step number 2. Then in the next step what happens is the controller or the master of the bus is now our target, right? Now it has to ask the SCSI controller or the actual master what it intends to do in this transfer. Okay, so now the disk controller is master of the bus, so it will ask the SCSI controller in step 3 what you wish to achieve. Okay, so that will be through an output operation, right? It will, that is our disk controller will request an output operation from the SCSI controller and that output is supposed to be command from the SCSI controller to the target, what the target is supposed to do. So once after step 3, the command is issued by the SCSI controller to the disk controller about what operation has to be done. In the 4th step, the disk controller will try to perform that operation. So usually if you consider the case of a hard disk, right, if you need to perform a read operation, and we know that the data in hard disk is scattered over many sectors, and it can be non-contiguous also. So if you need to read a file from a hard disk, maybe onto a primary memory, it may take a repeated disk accesses or disk rotations, which can't be done through a single transaction. Okay, so once the SCSI controller tells the disk controller that read a file for me from the hard disk, the disk controller will determine which all sectors are supposed to be part of the file and how is it going to access. Okay, so once that planning is done, what happens is disk controller will go and access maybe some sectors which are easily accessible from the disk, and meanwhile it will suspend its control over the SCSI bus. Okay, because this is a common bus and many other devices are already using it. Okay, it is not advantageous for the system as a whole to use or reserve this bus for this entire transaction. So meanwhile the controller is going and fetching the required sectors to constitute a burst of transfer. This bus can be temporarily given to other people. Okay, so the SCSI controller will instruct the disk to read some sectors. Meanwhile it will suspend its authority over the bus. Okay, so that happens in step number 4. Okay, so the target controller performs disk read, so logical connection is suspended. Then once the disk read has been completed and this SCSI controller of the hard disk is ready to give a burst of data to our actual SCSI master, what happens is it has to regain the control of the bus. Okay, so at step number 4 we have seen that this disk controller is no longer in charge of SCSI bus. Now what this controller has to do, it has again go into an arbitration process or a competition process, regain control of this SCSI bus, and then it has to transfer the burst of data it has accumulated to the actual master. Okay, so that has to be done. So when through this arbitration mechanism it gets its power or control over SCSI bus back, what happens is we are logically restoring the earlier suspended session. Okay, so this burst will constitute that restoration. Okay, so a particular transfer of file may span over multiple bursts or multiple suspension resumption cycles. Okay, so that is typical of any SCSI bus transfer. Then finally, when our SCSI master or SCSI controller has everything for a burst back to our main memory, what happens is it will go into a DMA cycle and it may burst whatever it has occupied over here to the main memory. Okay, so that indicates a particular portion of the file being transferred to the main memory, and again this cycle repeats. Okay, that is SCSI controller will again go into bus as the controller for the remaining section, and this transfer will repeat. Okay, now we will see what are the main SCSI bus signals or the signals and hardware lines which are used for a SCSI transfer. So the first and foremost is the data lines. So they are indicated using dB and they span from 0 to 7. Okay, it is a narrow SCSI bus, so there are 8 bit lines for data transfer and they are numbered from dB0 to dB7. Note that if you see majority of signals represented here, they are all written as negative. It means that they are active when the signal in them are negative. Okay, so first we have the dB lines. They are used for data transfer, and but they also have a major role during arbitration process. So as we have seen, what is arbitration process? The arbitration process actually decides who will control the SCSI bus for a particular duration, right? So during the arbitration process, the devices will usually put their identity using these dB lines. Okay, so in under a SCSI controller there can be around 7 subcontrollers. Okay, Why? Because if you see here, we have a DB lines address from 0 to 7, so it means 8. So each device will be given a particular line, like initialization device select line of or PCI. Okay, so each device will be given a particular DB line, and whenever that device activates that DB line, it means that that device is trying to show its identity for either an arbitration process or some reselection process. So what you have to understand is, in case of SCSI protocol, devices won't be given any addresses, right? They will show their presence by activating the corresponding DB line in which they have control. Okay, so maybe our SCSI controller, right, it may be having a DB7 with it, right? Our SCSI controller may be in charge of DB7. SCSI controller, whenever it needs to identify itself in bus, it will activate DB7. Okay, likewise other controllers. Now the another important lines, the another pair of lines that are used in data transfer is BSY, BC as well as selection. Okay, again they are active low, that is they are active when low signal is passed through them, and the purpose of BC line is to indicate that a particular arbitration process is going on or some controller is in charge of the bus. Okay, or it means that whenever the bus is not free, the BC line is activated. And then what about select line? Select or selection line is asserted during selection and reselection, that we will see later. Then through SCSI bus, there will be different types of signals and information passing. So in order to tell the parties on either ends what is being passed by the corresponding party, we have two lines, that is C bar D and MSG. C bar D stands for command bar data or control bar data. As if you are transferring any control information or command information, this has to be kept as active. Okay, C bar D has to be kept as active. Then as part of SCSI protocol, the initiator and target can pass any number of control messages between them. So if messages are being transferred through these DB lines, then MSG line has to be activated. Then we have a handshake mechanism also in place in case of SCSI protocol. So that is implemented using these two lines, request and acknowledge. So request is asserted by a target to request a data transfer, okay, during the cycle, and acknowledge is issued by the initiator when it has completed the data transfer operation. So these are the major signal lines or lines which are used in a SCSI transfer. We will now understand a typical SCSI transfer, and we will see how these lines play into action. Okay, so we will see what are the different stages in a typical SCSI data transfer. So first of all, we have arbitration stage, in which the devices or controllers compete with each other to gain control of the bus. Then once a particular person gains control of the bus, he will select the party to which he wishes to communicate. That is done using the selection phase. And once the two parties which are ready to communicate are over the bus, they will do the information transfer exchange, right? And as I told you, the information transfer will span multiple sessions. So current session may need to be suspended, then resume later. So for resuming a suspended session, we have a reselection procedure also. Okay, so these are the major steps in SCSI data transfer. First of all, gaining control of the bus through an arbitration mechanism, then selecting the corresponding person to which you need to communicate, so that is selection. Then in beginning an information transfer session, then a reselection of the reselection or a resumption of the session. Okay, so we will see how a typical SCSI data transfer happens through all these phases by considering an example. Okay, suppose that we have an initiator. Okay, so what we can do is we can consider our SCSI controller, main SCSI controller, as initiator. Suppose that this controller needs to perform an operation with this hard disk. Okay, so we have SCSI controller as our initiator, right, and the disk controller as our target. Okay, and assume that this SCSI controller is in charge of DB line 6, and this disk controller is in charge of DB line 5. Okay, so this SCSI controller's identity is DB6 and this disk controller's identity is DB5. Then suppose that CD-ROM controller is also taking part in this election procedure, and he wishes to gain control of SCSI bus also, maybe for some other operation. and suppose that the CD-ROM controller's identity is DB2. Okay, so we have DB6 over here, we have DB5 over here, and we have DB2. Okay, our intended communication is between DB6 and DB5. Okay, so we have a DB6 as initiator and we want DB5 as our target, and DB2 is coming into competition for the bus. So we will see how they will resolve that problem through the arbitration stage. Okay, so before going through this timing diagram, remember that the active state of almost all the pins in SCSI is low. Okay, so whenever you see a signal as low, it means that signal is asserted. So you have to take that in mind before going through this timing diagram. So as I told you, we have our DB6, that is our main SCSI controller. He is going to put his identity on the bus. Okay, DB6 is activated over here. Then at the same time, I told you our CD-ROM controller is trying to gain control of the bus. So DB2 will also activate its command line or data line. So at the same time, DB6 as well as DB2 is getting activated. Okay, now we have two parties competing for bus, that is the person at DB2 and person at DB6. Then there is a particular tie-breaking mechanism in this arbitration scheme, that is these DB lines are having a priority scheme, okay, in the increasing magnitude of their numbering. Okay, so it means that DB0 is of the lowest priority and DB7 is of the highest priority. So whenever there is a competition or tie between different controllers, the controller who is in possession of the highest numbered DB line is given the priority. So in our case, the DB6 line is of the highest priority, or our SCSI main controller is given the highest priority. So DB2 is supposed to lose this arbitration, and there is a particular procedure also for that. And the thing is, when this BC signal, right, when it is asserted as part of an arbitration mechanism, if you see here, DB6 and DB2 are both putting their claim for the bus, so BC signal will be put to active by DB2 and DB6 together. And when this BC signal is activated, all the controllers will listen on to their DB lines. Okay, and they will give the control to the particular controller whose DB line is activated and which has the highest number. So when this BC is activated, all controllers will listen over all the DB lines. They understand that DB6 and DB2 is involved in a competition, and finally control of the bus is given to DB6 or to our main SCSI controller. Okay, so this DB2 is supposed to take away this CD-ROM controller is supposed to take away its DB2 signal. Okay, and again there is a time limit for that. This DB2 should be taken off before this DB6 activates this select signal, or when this DB6 or SCSI controller activates the select signal, by that time DB2 should be off. Okay, so that is another time restriction here. That is whenever a person wins and he is activating select, right, then at that time the all other people should be keeping quiet, or DB2 should be leaving this competition. So this is the arbitration stage. Okay, so after the arbitration stage, what we have DB6 or our main SCSI controller controlling the SCSI bus. Now we have the selection stage. As I told you, in any communication there should be two parties, right? So after arbitration mechanism, our main SCSI controller is in charge of the bus, but it needs to communicate with the target, which is DB5, right? So DB5 should be chosen as a candidate for communication. So how is that done? And if you see here, DB6 now is currently activated, or SCSI controller is now activated. Now it will put the select signal to active stage, and at the same time it will also activate DB5 line. Okay, note that DB6 is going to select its communication partner, which is DB5. So what it does is it will put the selection signal to on, and it will put the address of its communicating partner to on. Okay, note that DB5 is turned on by DB6, not by DB5. Okay, so these are the main things. Select is turned on and DB5 or the partner's address is turned on by DB6. Okay, at the same time what happens is it will turn off, or our main SCSI controller or the initiator will turn off the BC line. Okay, after some time the DB5 is activated. Okay, so once again note that select is turned on, so whom we are going to select, DB5 is selected. Okay, once DB5's name is put, the BC signal is turned off by DB6. Actually it is turned off by DB6 to get a response from DB5. Okay, that is, once the BC signal is turned off, all the controllers will be informed about turning off the BC signal, right? So all the controllers will be listening to the DB lines. So when all controllers listen to the DB lines, DB5 understands that it has been selected for an operation by our master. Okay, so what happens is DB5 will depress the BC signal to indicate that it has understood that the master intends to initiate a transaction with it. Okay, so this part of the BC getting depressed or BC getting activated is done by our target DB5. Okay, so once the BC is depressed by DB5, whatever master does is it will take away its address, that is DB6, as well as it will take away the address of DB5 from the DB bus. Okay, so there are quite a lot of things going on here. So during selection, select is put, address of the partner is put, then the BC line is turned off to listen for the partner, then the partner will turn on the BC line, right, and the initiator or the master will take away all the addresses from the bus. Okay, so this is the end of the selection stage. Okay, so after finishing arbitration and selection, what do we have now? We have initiator of communication, that is our SCSI main controller. Then we have a target for communication, that is our disk controller. Then what has to be done? What has to be done is now we know that at the end of this cycle, right, the BC has been asserted by DB5 or by our disk controller. So whoever asserts the BC will be the master, right? So during the information transfer stage that we are going to enter now, the target or the disk controller will be the master of the bus, right, and he will keep BC asserted throughout the transfer. Now as usual, I told you, he will ask the master, the target will ask the initiator what has to be done, right? That will be done through what, a CD line with the help of IO line. Okay, so this IO line will be turned active, right? So when it is turned active, it means that the initiator is supposed to enter a input cycle. So that input will be the request from this target regarding what operation has to be performed. Okay, and that will be set through C bar D line. Then once that operation is communicated to the target, what happens is the target will release control of the bus by depressing or deactivating BC. Why? Because as I told you, we are dealing with very high latency devices. Once the target gets aware of the file or the operation that it has to perform, file transfer it has to perform, it no longer needs to be in charge of the bus. It will take so much time, so that bus is released. Okay, so once the information transfers intent has been communicated by the initiator to target, the target will release control of the bus. Okay, now suppose that the target has done the read or write on the disk and it is ready with the result of one burst, right? Now the target has to regain the SCSI bus to get the information back to the initiator. So this is known as a reselection procedure. Okay, so reselection procedure is entirely reverse of arbitration. So in arbitration, what did we observe? In arbitration, we observed a initiator, right, selecting a target and making it the bus master, right? But what we are going to see now during selection is the target has already something to be conveyed to the initiator. So target will compete with other members for the SCSI bus and it will select the initiator as its corresponding communication party. Okay, so that's what we are going to see in reselection procedure. The target will restart the arbitration and it will attempt to take control of the bus. Okay, so now target is restarting the arbitration. Then once it wins the arbitration, like the scheme that we have discussed earlier, what it does is it will select the initiator as its corresponding communication party. So how does it do that? It will put the initiator's address, then it will activate the select signal, then it will release its busy signal to check whether initiator will respond. Once initiator responds, it knows that initiator has agreed to be its other communication party, and it proceeds, right? Now, as I told you, initiator will indicate its active state by activating busy signal. Okay, so once initiator responds, what happens? Once initiator responds and takes away whatever target has conveyed, again target should be returned the control of the bus so that it can continue with the remaining portion of the transfer or the remaining bus. Okay, so once the initiator responds or gets whatever it has to take from the target is given the control back, right? It reasserts busy and the target restarts information transfer. So this is how a normal SCSI operation happens.